Get some food. I've got water. Or you can take some food from Tala, who's eating candy, or Christine, I think I saw you chewing on something, a bagel or something, a toast. Nice. Great. We should do like food to camera at some point. Hi, Sheila.
Hi.
Cooking something good, Tala. Better than candy. Kamaya, what's the time in good old London town?
Hi, it's 12:34.
Good on ya. Get some Dharma into ya.
I love it, and I love you, and I love everyone. So worth it.
Well, I can't help you, any of you. I can just spew forth what I heard, and then up to you. But I adore the opportunity to do it. The connection, it really feels amazing. And I feel sometimes so frustrated because, like after 10 years of battling with an idea, it clicks, or after 5 years of practicing, it turns into a habit. And I wish I could just condense it and just shove it down your throat, like, so you don't have to do the things for 10 years. But no one can do that, right? Like, and it's, I think that's part of the wish. Yeah, that's part of the wish. Who else we got here?
The Bodhisattvas are arriving. Hi, Gabe.
They are. They're all arriving.
Hi,
We just wait a few
Oh,
moments.
there's the Harry. Is that the Harry?
That's Harry. Yeah.
Hi, Harry.
You got it. He didn't get the link, and I don't know why. That's what I was texting. So
yeah, I got invited to an app, and then after that, no link came.
Oh, okay. So it might be better on Tuesday after a day or so goes past after signing up. But I'll check. I'll check with the person that checks the stuff going, the links going out. Hi, Sarah. Hi, Gabe. Allison P. Roxana, how are you? Good. Is that Karuna?
Yeah.
What? That's cool. Hi, Karuna.
Hi, Hector La.
Ah, it's so cool to see you.
Where are you? Wait,
I can't see. Oh, there you are. Nice. How's Colorado or somewhere else?
Colorado.
Colorado. Good on you.
It was 6 degrees this morning.
Hi, Pawan. And who else we got here? Marsha. Did I say that right? No. Marsha. Correct
Hector,
me.
would you mind disabling the chat?
Yep. Oh, can I do that?
Your co-host.
I think I can. Here we go. Nobody can talk. Here we go. I have disabled the chat.
Thank you. You feel good about starting? Can everyone see my screen?
Yeah, I think we're good time and the screen is there.
Amazing. Let's begin because we have a lot to cover tonight and we have a special guest joining us for the end of class, so we must be on time with everything. So hi everyone, nice to see you again, new and returning, all your glorious faces. It's really nice to see you, even if you're eating or your hair's in a towel. Hi, Hannah. Or whatever you're doing. It's just really nice to see your face. And welcome. Thank you for keeping on with us. Welcome to 3 Jewels. And oh my gosh. Everyone look at Hector now if you haven't. So we're going to just keep plowing ahead. So for those of you who've been with us, take a moment before we move on from Diamond Cutter and just remember what it felt like. What were those aha moments that you got from studying that incredible, precious text? So I hope there were some takeaways for you. You know, maybe it was something around the idea of emptiness, right? Or more than that, maybe it was the possibility for you that emptiness doesn't just have to be something you study and debate and intellectualize, but it can actually be this experience that you create in your mind that could change the way you experience absolutely everything. That thing that cuts through, right? The cutter part. And I wanted to share this little story before we dive in, and maybe it can help us set our motivation. I've been thinking a lot about the King of Kalinka, since we talked about him last time. And did anyone else, I mean, when I first heard that story, I sort of thought it was hypothetical, right? Like one of those stories from scripture of like, okay, it's like, what are those called? Like fables, you know, it's a story to prove a point. And since practicing, that's shifted because I start to see examples of it in my real life. And I'm like, oh, whoa, that's not a story, that's a sign. There's something else going on. So I just wanted to share this. I don't know if anyone else is following this, but right now, Hector told me it's actually the largest protest in the world. I didn't realize that, but it started with some farmers in Punjab in India. And if you've been following this conflict, it's basically their battle for land sovereignty. You know, they're farmers by trade and by identity for generations. And corporatized, privatized farming has arrived in the country. And it's threatening everything about the way they live their life. And so if you've been following the news right now, and this is like mobilized farmers across the nation, and a lot of them are marching right now to the Capitol. And along the way, police brutality, like as bad as you can imagine it, is what they're facing. Tear gas, getting attacked, just brutal things. And I was sort of following the conflict, and if any of you if you know anything about the Sikh tradition, or you've like heard of a gurdwara or a temple, one of the most beautiful aspects of their practice and their faith is this thing called langar. I don't know if anyone's heard of it. Maybe like nod your head if you have. I see some nods. Langar is this, and it happens in so many traditions, but if you ever go to a Sikh temple, at the end of the night, everyone sits on the ground, and the senior most people in the temple, right? Like the most senior practitioners serve you food, like with their hands as you're sitting on the ground and you eat food, and it's called langar. It's the meal at the end of the day. I got to experience it with my family at the Golden Temple, and it's beautiful. But anyways, this whole story is to say these Sikh farmers, after being brutalized all day, as they're trying to protest and advocate for their land sovereignty, what do they do to the same policemen that are tear gassing them by day? At night, they say, okay, here, sit down, let me serve you. Let me serve you dinner. And I heard that and I was like, whoa, it's King of Kalinka, right? It's when someone's attacking me, I will love them, I will feed them. And to think that someone could actually have that type of mind, it just really moved me and reminded me that this stuff is possible. It's not just a story, it's not just something to study. So whatever that was for you, I hope you have you had some version of that in the Diamond Cutter. Just bring it to mind now as we set our motivation more formally for this course, for this class. And maybe you can do that to the demons in your own mind. Instead of pushing them away, instead of indulging them, you feed them langar. You serve them wisdom. So with that, let me see if I can advance. Maya and Diego, just as you're chewing, can you start us off here?
Sure.
Thank you.
Sashi Puki Jushin Meto Viva Blinshi Linde Gampadi Sange Shindu Mikte Uwagi Roku Namda Shingla Chupasho Yam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamdiyatayami Sashi Chudang Soki Choknam La Jangchu Bardu Dakni Kapsuhi Daki Shenyan Gipe Sunam Ki Drola Penshir Sange Juparsho Sange Chudang Soki Choknam La Jangchu Bardu Dakni Kyapsuchi Daki Shenyan Kipe Sunam Ki Drola Penshu Sange Druparsho Sangye Chudan Soki Choknam La Jangchu Bardu Dakni Kyapsu Chi Daki Shenyan Kipe Sunam Ki Drola Penshir Sangye Chupa Sho.
Thank you so much for that. Welcome, everyone. So if you didn't know where you're at 3 Joules. We're doing a 60-hour condensed version of all of Buddha's thought that takes 20 years to study. We're taking a couple of months just to taste the key concepts. And each one of these tastes we get represents 5 weeks of study in an expanded course. Every day we sit here for a couple of hours represents 5 classes, extended classes in a course that takes 8 years at 3 Joules to teach. So you're getting the essence of the essence of the essence. And last class, Supriya and I finished covering the Diamond Cutter Sutra, right? Which is all about the concept, the understanding of ultimate reality, the way things truly exist. And that is emptiness, the idea of emptiness. It dispelled what emptiness is not, and it made us dive deep into this idea that things cannot have a nature. Remember the pen example, right? There is no, thanks Anna, there's no penness coming this way, because otherwise dogs must see pen, but they see chew toys, to oversimplify. Therefore, pen is in this consciousness, imputing it, projecting it, making it real through my conception of it. Make sense? That's the key that makes all of Buddha's practices work. Without that understanding that there's something in me projecting what I call real, which isn't the way it is, by itself, without me, reality is different. Remember, the eye can only see 3% of the light or 5% of the spectrum. And so every color and shape you see is not what's actually there. You're living in a 5% world. The understanding of emptiness is removing that 5% and seeing the infinite possibility that depends on your mind to have that experience. If we all got that, if we understand that, that's just bottom line, basic key to opening Buddhist wake-upist practices. Practices that wake you up, that Buddha you to reality. And why the hell do we want to do that? So we can stop things that hurt us and perpetuate, expand, make continuous the things that are blissful. Because if you've had love for a minute, you can have it for 2, you can have it for 3, if you know what produces it. But the fact that it goes in and out of existence for you and for me means we don't really know the course of it. It just comes and like we get attached to it and we're making a mistake because we don't understand reality. That basically is everything we covered last class. Now, even knowing that there's some seeds in my mind, some courses in my mind that's forcing me to see pen and not chew toy, or see love and not hatred, or see hope and not fear. Even though we understand that, we now have to get busy at figuring out what the hell do I have to plant in my mind so my projections are good and not bad, so I don't have to have suffering. And so this course, the course we're talking about now, is, we started today, the concept of bodhisattva vows, vowed morality, making solemn promises. And so in the West, for me at least, when I heard the word vow, it felt like restrictive, negative. I have to stop doing things I really like. This sucks. Now I have to be a bloody do-gooder, and I can't enjoy being sarcastic and, you know, all the things that I like, hurting people. I can't do all the bad things that I think are good. That's how we tend to think of vows. Or we think of some sexually frustrated monk or nun beating themselves in some abbey somewhere in the, I mean, that's what I think about all the time. No, so I don't think about it all the time. But in the West, when we talk about vows, solemn promises, we tend to think of it as a restrictive thing. And in Buddhist practice, it's the complete opposite. because of what we understood about the key, emptiness. If things are empty, then everything I think, say, and do, every action of body, speech, and mind, every time I perceive myself thinking something, doing something, saying something, plants an imprint in my mind. And that imprint is what I project in my future. That is what creates my reality. And even knowing that, it would take a long, bloody time for this mind to have all the seeds to feel a perfect existence, a wake-upness, an enlightenment. So vows or promises are like wings to freedom. They're like, if I can promise not to say, I promise not to say poo for the rest of this class, right? So now my mind has this overactive attention to the word that starts with P that I promise not to say, yeah? Because if I say it, I break my promise. And all of a sudden, my attention, the intention behind that attention is amplified, and the imprint in my mind much stronger. It's very focused on specific things. Vows in the East focused on very specific acts of body, speech, and mind that will liberate you because your heightened attention on it. And I marry people. Yeah, I'm like a person that, what is it, celebrant, right? And the best part about doing that is seeing people create their vows, seeing people promise to each other how to love each other. And I don't care about the ceremony. I don't care about the stupid flowers and the dumb frivol this and that and the cards. But the most important part is to watch two people who have suspended anger and suspended fear and suspended all the horrible things in humanity, and they choose to come together and make a promise or a series of promises, a vow, that I will treat you and think of you and speak to you in a specific way. So in the West, in all around the world, we have that practice. And when I do these weddings, and I think Danielle's in here, right? I married you, Danielle, right? When you're there and you see that here's Danielle and here's Chris, and they've worked on their vows, and they're not telling each other until they tell it to each other in public in front of all the people that they love, right? Inside that vow, there's a promise, an intention. I hold tight in my mind this hope. And then all your crazy aunts come to watch, all your weird family come and hang out, all your strange friends come, because there's hope for them too. Because in that moment, when you take a vow, when you make a promise, everybody wishes what you're wishing. They've come to sniff if there's happiness here. And every wedding that I've done feels like that, feels this hope. And the tightness and the meaning behind those vows have the power to give you freedom. They speed track you towards the intent of that vow. And it's the same here for the course we're covering today. We're going to cover some bodhisattva vows, the vows of a being who wishes to wake up for the sake of everyone else. And they don't work like the pen by themselves. They don't work because they're vows. They work when you work them, when your mind is engaged with them. That's when they work, because they don't have a nature. They work with the nature that you're continuously loading upon them. So you amplify your mind when you make these promises, and then keep that amplification going, and you won't get divorced. That's the story. Sophia, you want to move on to the next page? Yeah. Is that me or you?
It's you.
Okay, so just quickly, this comes from, we're taking a commentary from the Highway to the Bodhisattvas. It's the main commentary. It's Tsongkhapa. Tsongkhapa is like almost like the second Buddha in Tibet. He's the teacher of the first Dalai Lama. He's the main dude that we've seen throughout all these courses, and his conception of all of Buddha's practices, his Lamrim practices, his steps on the path to enlightenment, his ideas on emptiness, his commentary is actually what makes it very meaningful and practical for us. So we'll forever return to Tsongkhapa, and we're using that book from the 1400s, late 1500s. So Priya, you want to go to the next one, please?
Just a reminder for people who are, and I hope everyone who wants to is following along with homeworks, quizzes. The numbers on here are not to confuse you, they're just clues. So there might be a question 1 on your homework, which is, what is the source? what's the principal commentary that we're using for our study of the Bodhisattva vows? And the answer for that is given to you right now. And
Yeah.
same for question 2.
Thank you. And so the vows that we'll cover in this course have their motivation, their power, their intent behind them, this wish, this fervor to wake up my mind, the wish for enlightenment for the sake of every living being too, not just for me. If I could figure out how to get free from suffering, I'm going to do it for the sake of everyone else that needs that, regardless who they are, because they're just like me. They're lost in appearances. And so the definition for a bodhisattva, someone who has bodhicitta, has this wish to get enlightened for the sake of every living being. Let's move quickly through this so we can get to the core content. And then this is mostly, there are plenty of people in this class who have taken vows either with me or with other teachers. Yeah, and there's really 3 broad sections of vows. And the way I think about them is there's a road between where I'm at now and where my mind is completely free from suffering, and instead of suffering, there's bliss. And we call that enlightenment. Yeah, so it's a roadway to enlightenment. And along that road, you're going to have big obstacles, big chunks of rock that prevent you from traveling there. And to remove those obstacles, we take refuge and Pratimoksha vows. We take refuge and liberation vows. And so there's a series of vows or promises that Buddha said, hey, if you want to fast track, take refuge not in worldly things, but in the emptiness of your mind, or the fact of emptiness of all things. Bring your mind there over and over. Promise that you'll try to do that, and your mind will be liberated quicker than if you just said, oh, I like these ACI classes, thinking Buddhism is a nice, cool thing. It's very different to go and say, oh, this is interesting, and then go and see Trump TV and go, that's funny, and hang out on TikTok and go, that's hilarious. Very different impact on your mind if you're doing that, and this is just one more of those things, or if you're taking this idea that things don't have a nature, therefore enlightenment is behind every single action that I'm going to do. You don't stop looking at TikTok, you don't stop going to work, you don't stop, you just infuse that with this promise that you made to take refuge in where's the emptiness of that? Why did that hurt me? You become like a constant investigator of the nature of your life and your mind, because you understand emptiness. And so your mind is obsessed with trying to understand karma and emptiness. And so you take refuge vows, you take pratimoksha vows, you remove the big boulders along the road to enlightenment. And then mostly they are about stop harming things, stop harming people, stop doing negative things, and then the negative things will stop for you. So that's those promises, broadly speaking. And then on top of that, you don't just want to remove suffering, you want to increase bliss and goodness. And so you do these bodhisattva vows, the ones that we'll cover in this course. And then these are much finer, they're smaller rocks, they're not big boulders anymore, they're subtle parts of your mind that you're working on. And these are, broadly speaking, designed to help people, not just stop my own hurt and stop the negativity, but actually produce some positivity towards others in your mind, right? You're forever seeding your mind. And then for those that want to go faster, 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 the diamond way, or the tantric vows, or the Vajrayana vows, which everyone thinks is awesome and sexy, and I want to go there straight away. They're empty too. They only work if your mind has the courses to experience those promises as sublime and divine. And they are very fun. They're like dust on the road. So you can rollerblade to enlightenment, right? So little dust particles will trip you up if you don't clean it, so you can't go very fast. So the tantric vows are a much finer ways of paying attention to the way your mind engages with reality. And you can't jump straight there. You need to have built enough virtue or goodness through the bodhisattva vows to naturally begin to experience the world in a way that you can function at that much more subtle point of your mind. So each set of vow is required for the next and the next and the next. And whenever you take a tantric empowerment, they won't give it to you without a bodhisattva vows having been taken and practiced. And they won't give you those without you having taken and practiced refuge vows. But remember, they're not restrictions. They are your wings to freedom if you understand the key, which is karma and emptiness. Everything I put in my mind will have an effect. The stronger I put it in my mind, the stronger and faster the result. And that's why vows and promises are powerful, powerful things to take up. How did I do? Am I doing more? Oh, this is for the tantric practitioners. There's a misconception specifically around Westerners. I think nowadays this is more relevant, where they think if I've got the highest vows, I don't need to do all the nice things of the lower vows. I'm good. I'm above all of that. And so you might think to yourself that because you've got these tantric vows, you can go ahead and break some of the lower vows, the bodhisattva vows, the refuge vows. And Tsongkhapa says, you're crazy. It's like a hailstorm. What did he say? It's like a hailstorm on tender crops. Your tender crops are the beautiful virtue you've been planting with all your seeds of refuge and bodhisattva vows, your kindness as you're aware of emptiness. And then you arrived, you got some tantric empowerment. Now you behave like an idiot and not taking care of other people or thinking you're above everyone else. And that just crashes all the goodness that you've put there. So Tsongkhapa says, be very careful, be very careful. The key that your mind is forever creating your reality doesn't change just because someone gave you a stupid badge that says, I've got tantric vows or higher vows than you. For some, it could be the invitation for a negative state of mind to arise, like a superiority complex or something like that. So be very careful as you get more and more into these teachings. They're designed to free you, and you can only free yourself if you take care of others. Yeah, in gross or subtle forms. I believe that's my story.
Yeah, I love this passage. I just wanted to say I have this image when I think of this of my bodhisattva vows are like my dad garden. So you know those little packets that seeds come in, but it doesn't just say seeds on it. It says seeds that result in the tender crops that are the happiness of all living kind. You know, it's not even just like seeds that grow into crops or seeds that grow into crops that are tender, but it's literally, here is the source of all of mankind's happiness. If all of mankind isn't coming this way and is rather coming this way, that makes sense. And those are the seeds I have in my pocket that I decide to plant into the soil of my mind when I take on vows, which is what we'll discuss next. So I think this is a beautiful part of this course. We actually get to talk about who can give you these vows. You know, maybe your mind is excited and you're like, oh, I want to take on these promises. So how would you go about finding someone that could actually give you this gift, right? More precious than all the other things we go around looking for. So in Gelugpa fashion, in our lineages fashion, you have a list of qualities of someone who could actually give you these vows, and basically look for someone who has most of these, if not all. Yeah. And so we'll just go through them quickly. Actually, this first one is always affects me because I definitely used to have this thinking that if I wanted to take on vows, first of all, I would need to be ordained and I should go find another ordained person. You know, like, okay, I need to go make friends with a monk or a nun. And it's actually via this commentary that we're studying, it can be an ordained or unordained person who's giving you these vows. It can be male or female. Really, it comes down to, do they themselves have the vows? Do they understand what they are? And are they keeping them well? That being the most important part, right? And when it comes to, how do you know if you're keeping your vows well? We'll get to it, but the crux of it is, are you checking your mind for your vows? And not just once in a while, not just when you're in Dharma class, but multiple times a day, maybe as often as I check Instagram. Am I checking my vows in my mind? Right? That's the only way that you can tell that someone has their vows. There's nothing in their pocket. There's no outward sign or marker. So that's one of the most important qualities of someone who can actually give you these vows. It should also be someone with a bodhisattva intention. So if you see bodhisattva intention, that's code for the other B word, bodhicitta. Right? The reason they're giving you these vows is the only motivation in their mind is, I want you to get enlightened for the sake of all beings. Not, I want you to become my disciple and follow me around, right? Not because I want you to become Buddhist. It's because I want you too to become a bodhisattva. They actually have that intention. They've devoted their entire entirety of their mind stream to waking up themselves, and they know because of karma and emptiness that that's not separate from allowing other people to wake up. So they have the bodhisattva intention. It is preferable, like Hector covered those multiple sets of vows, it's preferable to find someone who can actually grant you all 3 sets. Not a requirement, but think about it, right? If you, what's an analogy? I don't know, think about anything else that you've ever studied, dance, math, whatever it is. Someone who can not just teach you the basics, but can teach you the more sophisticated, finer arts. Wouldn't it be great to stick with one person? That's sort of the logic there. They can also give you your secret or tantric vows. We're not going to get into the ceremony too much in this review course, but for those of you who've taken ACI7 or those of you who want to go back, there's a really beautiful description of what that ceremony is actually like, right? And the ceremony is basically like setting the stage for you to plant that seed of, I am taking my bodhisattva promises, right? Think about a marriage ceremony and the marriage vows. Same idea. So there's this, it's really quite beautiful. And the point here is there's someone who knows how to create that experience for you. It doesn't mean it's going to be beautiful for you. You get what you give, right? It's what you bring to it. But the idea is it's someone who knows the ceremony well. And then finally, this is sort of related to the earlier point. They are able and willing to bring up the student. They're able to work with you, to be friends with you, to open up their life to you, to be like, oh, this is what it's like to be a bodhisattva and have a job, to be a bodhisattva and date, to be a bodhisattva and go through a breakup, whatever those things are. So they're willing to do that. And then bonus points. If the person you find, you ask for your vows from, that's another thing. You actually get to ask for your vows. Traditionally, you ask multiple times. So there's no one walking around being like, here, take bodhisattva vows. It's you asking yourself, do I want to make that commitment? Can I make that promise? It's cool to me because so many other things, I feel like the trajectory is laid out for you, right? You know, go to high school, go to a good school. Like I feel like this decision is one of the first ones which you get to make purely on your own for yourself, which is ironic because you're actually making it for everyone else. Like that's the reason you're making it, but it's coming from you. But anyways, bonus points if they are a master of the 6 perfections. We've talked a few times about the 6 perfections, right? So if you remember from Diamond Cutter, we sort of deep dived into the perfection of patience, which really means not getting angry. King of Kalinka story, Sikh farmer's story, that even when someone is attacking me, I don't respond with anger because I have the wisdom to know that responding with anger creates violence as a boomerang effect, guaranteed in the future. So it's patience. That's what patience is. It's not, I'm going to wait for the G train for 17 minutes. Nice. We talked about patience. We talked about the perfection of giving. There's 4 other ones. And the idea is that someone who can give, when you study all the bodhisattva vows, you realize they actually map to the 6 perfections exactly. So you want to become a master at the 6 perfections, you just need to know and keep your vows. And so it's someone who has that practice. I was thinking about this, you know how everyone's sharing their Spotify Wrapped right now? And I was thinking of like, if there was a Spotify Wrapped version of the thoughts in our own heads, like the songs that get stuck in, the literal thought songs that get stuck in your head, like what would be your top hits? Like what would you be your most played? And so for a bodhisattva or someone who can give you vows, it would be all the times they didn't get angry, all the times they meditated, all the times they thought about karma and emptiness in their day-to-day life. Those are their greatest hits in their head. So you can think about it that way. So that's who can give you vows, and then who can take vows. Another list. So again, you don't need to be ordained to take vows. You don't need to give up your job. You don't need to stop dating. You don't need to start wearing a mala and call yourself a Buddhist. It has nothing to do with that. Really, it's all really comes down to number 2. You actually want to take them. And for a lot of people, this might show up as the opportunity to take them came up, but you decided to wait. Like, that's what I did. I got the email, hey, there's a Bodhisattva vow ceremony happening at 3 Jewels. Do you want to come, Supriya? I was like, I don't know. I think I want to come because it would make me feel cool to hang out with all these people that I'm meeting in Dharma class. I knew that wasn't the right motivation. I waited like a year just sort of pretending to have them, which you can do. That's a great seed planting technique. Until I had that feeling of, oh, wow, this is the only thing I want to commit to. Everything else can flow from here. So it's really, do you have the wish, capital W, wish to get enlightened for the sake of all beings? They say that if you kind of have a naturally compassionate nature, that makes you a great candidate. If you actually care about other people or beings. This is important. Anne and I were talking about this earlier, that you actually know what vows you are taking, especially when it comes to Bodhisattva vows, because one of the qualities of them is that you can study them before you take them. That's not the case for secret or tantric vows, but for Bodhisattva vows, you can study all 18 root vows, all 46 secondary vows, their details, what they are not. So do you actually know what you're promising? Do you understand it? And do you intend to keep them? Sometimes people describe vows as tattoos on your spiritual body. And there's not really like spiritual tattoo removers. You know, like when you take them, you kind of want to intend to keep them. That's the idea here in number 5. And number 6, you already have a penchant for morality. And this kind of goes back to what Hector was saying. I don't know what came up in your mind when you heard the word morality just now, but really think about morality as what's the part of you that you're checking multiple times a day, as often as you're checking social media? What part of your mind, what part of your value system? You know, when you're in the grocery store, why don't you just put the candy bar in your pocket? What's the thing that stops you, and how often do you check in with that impulse for goodness? So in like a beautiful technique that's kind of given to us to do this is check your mind 6 times a day, 3 times in the daytime, 3 times when the sun goes down. That's and check them for, if you have vows, if you've taken vows, check them for those vows. If you haven't, check them for the 10 virtues and non-virtues. I think we've gone over that list for those who did ACI17. So that's the last thing, and sort of who's a candidate to actually take these. Point being, take them and have them mean something, right? Anything else there, Hector, that I'm missing? Oh, here's one thing. So we wanted to go over these things because, as you'll hear from our guest who joins at the end of this class, there's actually an opportunity very soon to study these vows in more detail and actually take them. And that's as part of the Medicine Buddha retreat that we mentioned last week. That's coming up. And there's actually 2 ways to take your Bodhisattva vows, or like 2, it's a gradual process. You can take one and then the other, or you can just take both at the same time. Meaning, you can start with this promise of, I promise to think like a Bodhisattva. I'm going to try, right? I'm going to just try to change the flavor of my thoughts. Option B, I promise to act like a Bodhisattva. So there's sort of 2 versions of these vows and these vow ceremonies. Okay, I think, am I doing these, Hector? Yes. Okay. So today we're going to focus on the first 18 Bodhisattva vows, which are called the root downfalls.
Let's just tell them that we'll cover them.
Yeah.
And then what we're going to do in the breakout room so they can start thinking about it in that way.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when I say we're going to cover, actually, we're not going to cover them right now. They're going to flash on the screen. You can take a screenshot of them, but you all are amongst many bodhisattvas right now, whether you knew it or not. And so in our breakout rooms, we're actually going to decode what the meanings of the vows are, because you're going to see when you read them that they kind of don't make sense. Like when you should read them and be like, why would that get me enlightened for the sake of all beings? So we're going to decode that. And we're going to focus on the first 18, right? Know that there's 18, they're called root downfalls. Those are the essential ones, and then there's 46 secondary ones, like sublists that flow from those. We're going to focus on the first 18. If you're a super nerd and you want to do all of them, go to ACI7. So one thing, why are they called root downfalls? You can break it up simply. Root, because take the metaphor of planting a seed. You can also unplant a seed, right? You can pull something up by its root. And so that's the idea here. If you break this type of vow, it's like pulling something up at the, and it's doing that to this vow in your mind. It's actually destroyed from your own mind. And we're going to talk next class about it. It's much harder to break a vow than you think it is. But just know that's what the root is. And downfall means, so Hector amped us up and talked about what's the positive result of taking these vows, right? What's that upward virtuous cycle? The opposite is also true, right? If I pull up a vow at the root, if I destroy it, there will also be a result. Karma, every cause has a result. And so the result of deciding to promise to dedicate your life to the sake of all beings, and then knowingly, consciously doing something that goes against that, the repercussions are pretty massive. Here they say it would actually result in you having a perception of falling to the lower realms. Now that sounds a lot like, oh, if I break a vow, I'm going to go to hell. How's that different from Christianity? We're going to get to it more in ACI 8, Death in the Realms, but at its core, it's a realm is a perception. It's not a place. It's the way I am forced to perceive things here, not by choice, because if I could, I would will myself to be in a Buddha paradise enlightened realm. Why am I in this human realm where everything's falling apart? So if you can think about realm that way, then it makes sense that breaking a root vow would result in a perception of this body in pain. Because I'm saying, I don't care about all these other bodies out there. I'm going to discard the wish to take care of everyone. Another way to think about root downfall in Sanskrit, the word is pampas. That's like just a simple word. That's why I can remember it. I'm not a Sanskrit scholar, but that means defeats. And what are you defeated by when you break a bodhisattva vow? You're defeated by these pesky things called mental afflictions. Your anger, your jealousy, even it could start like irritation. So the only way you can really break a vow truly is that you're so harassed by these negative thoughts in your mind, these mental afflictions, that you actually become defeated by them. That's another way to think about breaking your vows. So as I said, I'm just going to flash these here. I'm really not going to go through them. These are the first half of the root downfalls. There's 9 of them. And the first 4 are often thought about in pairs because the motivation for breaking them is, you can think about it in pairs. So for example, the second, like if you look at 3 and 4, failing to accept someone's apology or striking someone else, those they all have to do with anger. So they're like paired in that way. But I'm not going to go through these now. We're actually going to ask that in your breakout rooms, you're all going to be assigned to a couple of these, and you're going to have people who have taken on these promises so they understand what they are and will decode them. Because it should feel weird, right? Like you should read number 5, stealing what belongs to the 3 jewels, and be like, oh, does that mean if I'm at 3 jewels now, does that mean if I walk out of here with this plant, I'm stealing something that belongs to the 3 jewels? Have I broken a vow? It doesn't mean that at all, right? It has something to do with what the actual 3 jewels means. So we're going to do all that in breakout rooms because there's many bodhisattvas here who can speak to this. Here are numbers 10 through 18.
So did everyone take a snapshot of that previous one? Yeah, good. Thanks.
I see some nods and some. Definitely take one of your. I think between all of us, you'll get enough screenshots. So they should feel mysterious. Like, why would destroying towns and such apply to me? Why would that create the causes for me to get enlightened? What is rejecting the practice of quietude? So we're going to get into all of this. Everyone got screenshots? Amazing. So Oh, we have a little bit more. So we are going to go into detail on a few of them, and then we're going to do breakout rooms. So Hector, this is you, yeah?
Yeah, but because of the time, let me just go through vow 11. I'll give you the essence of that. These are like particularly dangerous vows, promises you make that can have powerful positive consequences or powerful negative consequences in your own mind, forcing you to have a different reality. And the worst reality you can have by breaking these promises, if you will, is that things will return to normal, that magic disappears, that the possibility for freedom is used up because we've normalized things, because we've broken that root, we've taken things from the root, the goodness that we've been planting from the root. So when you're reading this, it does sound like, you'll go to hell or there'll be terrible consequences. But think about it from, that's why I keep saying the key is karma and emptiness. If we are indeed projecting our reality constantly based on what we've said, done, and thought towards others, and you're having a good experience at the moment, you're reaping the results of having taken care of others in the past, broadly speaking. And if there's any pain, or if there's any suffering or any suspicion or any negativity in your world, it can only come from the projection of you having created some negativity towards others in the past. That's all. It's really quite simple. But now the vows are more detailed, a specific kind of negativity. Avoid a specific kind of harm. Actively try a very specific kind of goodness. And check out vow 11, for example, teaching emptiness to a person who is not yet mentally prepared. Right? We're all so excited about the pen and the emptiness and the thing. And so we'd go out and vomit it out to everyone possible without thinking of the consequences for that person. What if they're not ready? What if that would freak them out so much that they won't ever understand that they could get themselves out of suffering by understanding emptiness correctly? Or what if you're too gung-ho and you don't quite understand emptiness, you think you do, and you're off like giving it away in the wrong way to someone, and then they spend 20 years trying to have no self. I'm trying to be no self. I'm not a person, What a waste of 20 years that you've actively placed in your mind if you understand and have some doubt. So that's a particularly strong vow. Causing a person to give up the morality of freedom is basically by saying, look, I learned all about this bodhisattva stuff. I'm such a good practitioner. You're just one of those lower Buddhists over there. But if you come over to my Buddhist tradition and you can be this kind of Buddhist, then you can go to extraordinary heights and forget that thing. And if by what you say to them, it causes them to give up their planting of good seeds, then you've broken that vow. And if cause and effect are cause and effect, then you must eat the same consequence in the future. Someone must appear in your world that makes you give up your path to freedom if you're not doing it correctly. Does that make some sense? So there's a couple of vows that are vital, and the next two are also there. What are they? I can't remember. These are hard. Okay. Check this out. Holding wrong views. Yeah, I hated hearing this the first time. So I hope you don't. I hope I've learned enough in the last 25 years that you could hear the meaning here. The worst view that you could hold is that things come this way, that they appear that way, but you really believe it and you act as if they do. Sustaining and maintaining that view, once you've learned that actually it comes this way, that by itself breaks the perception that you could free yourself from self-existent things. And so holding wrong views typically comes in two flavors. The wrong view that karma and emptiness don't function. In other words, because things are empty, I don't have to care about what I do, say, or think because they're empty, or there's no consequence to what I do, say, or think because they're empty, or for whatever other reason. Not believing in cause and effect of the mind. Thinking that I could say something harmful to you and not experience the results of that harm in my own mind. That's the worst wrong view, because that prevents you from freeing yourself. That's the consequence of that. It prevents you from accessing the code behind the matrix that operates this system. Yeah, so that's one. Or giving up the wish, like earnestly saying, you know, I'm done. I don't care about a single creature on this planet. I give up this wish to get enlightened for the sake of everyone else. Yeah. And I think of that, I think of this song, but I can't remember the Peggy Lee. Is that an old singer? Peggy Lee, yeah. Something, anyway, it'll come to me by the end of it. And I still didn't say the word with P. Let's leave that one there. Giving up the wish. This, if you're planting seeds to turn on enlightenment by taking care of everyone else, the worst thing you could do is cut that wish and go, I'm done. You'll definitely not get that result. Yeah. So that's, I guess, a summary. I think because of time, we should start the breakout group, which means I should share the cheat sheet. Yeah.
You should. So you can please re-enable the chat. Everyone should take a screenshot of this slide. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to have 6 breakout rooms. We're going to divvy up the 18 root downfalls in the way you see here. If you are a vowed up bodhisattva, stay during the breakout rooms and we will manually put you in. Okay? If you have your bodhisattva vows, stay, please. Otherwise, once you're all in your groups, Hector is going to share an excerpt of the reading, which actually explains each vow, like the meaning behind it. And he's just shared that in the chat. You all have access to that. So the idea is, as a group, dig for that real meaning. And it's not just do the reading and understand it, but ask yourself, ask each other, what would it mean to put this into practice in my life? And what does it have anything to do with me waking up? Especially if you don't think it does, like ask, now's the time. So you will just have 3 vows per group, so you're gonna have time. And then we're gonna ask, when you share back out, just pick 1 vow to share and really think that, like, this is a mini training, right? So hopefully there's some part of your mind that eventually wants to share this stuff. So those who are sharing, share it in that way. Like, okay, you are sharing with the rest of the group who did not study those 3 vows that you were studying in your breakout room. Share the essential meaning of one of them. And it's not about the right definition for us. We're not going to refer to the reading. It's how does it make sense for you? What's the meaning for you? What's the example that comes to mind?
So I'll give you an example. When you all get this reading, let's say you're in room 2, you'll be vows 4, 5, and 6. Yeah. When you look at the reading, vow 4, 5, and 6, I can't remember that order. Let's have a look. 4, 5, and 6. 1, 2, 3, 5, the root downfall of stealing what belongs to the 3 jewels. 6, the root downfall of giving up the highest Dharma. Root 4, giving up the greater way, teaching false Dharma. I think that's the correct correlation there, right? Teaching false Dharma, teaching wrong wisdom. That's a vow. Your job in your breakout room is to say, okay, false Dharma would be a Dharma that doesn't give a result, right? In this system, it means no karma and emptiness. Teaching people they're going to get happy by eating ice cream. If all of you buy dulce de leche ice cream, you'll all be happy for the rest of your lives. False Dharma. How would keeping this vow help you get to enlightenment, get free of mental suffering? How would keeping not teaching the wrong thing to people help? What would be the result of keeping that karma beautifully in your mind, keeping tight in your mind the wish to only teach truth, only teach the highest truth you have access to, right? Zoe says getting teachings. Yeah, correct, right? So that's the example. Your job is to say, hold on, here's a vow, teaching false Dharma. How the hell do I turn that into waking me up, getting me to enlightenment? And obviously, you not teaching falseness and you teaching truth, your best understanding of truth, must result in you being taught a bunch of truth, because cause and effect. Because you put an imprint in your mind, teach truth, the karma resulting of that after it grows and multiplies, could be a month, could be a year, could be 6 years, is you'll be forced to perceive, instead of chew toy, pen, instead of garbage information, meaningful information, because meaningful information is a projection on otherwise empty words. Does that make sense for everyone? That's why last course is deeply connected to this course. So as we go into breakout groups, if you've got these vows, don't join the group. Supriya will add you manually. So every group has at least one, if not two people that have these vows, and you can help the rest of the group manage. Supriya, or yours?
We have some time. We just need to be back by 8:50. So we have time to share out, and then our guest is joining at 9:15. Sound good? Okay, see y'all soon. Open all rooms. There you go. Pause.
Drop from the top. I know, I wasn't going to continue this.
Whoa.
Yeah.
To yank you away, as always. That's going to be a weird comment that comes back to us.
What's going to be weird?
I always feel like we're interrupting like the most beautiful conversations, and we're just like, bye, you have 1 minute, and it just ends.
Yeah, we didn't even get a warning little blurb this time, guys.
Oh, sorry, I don't know why that didn't happen.
I saw it.
We did get it.
We did get it.
We got it.
That was
Somebody
your
wasn't
karma,
paying attention.
There you go, Zoe. They're all
We
on
got
it.
it.
We were just so immersed in conversation, so sorry.
Okay, let's jump in. I want to hear from you all.
I'm excited to hear
Can
it.
we start with group? Yeah, me too. My whole screen just went black for some reason, but I can hear you all. Room 1, who covered vows 1 through 3. Would you mind sharing? Pick one vow, and what does it mean in practice?
This is Donna. I was in group 1 with 10 other lovely people, and I was telling them the story of I was being very vulnerable, telling them the story about a coworker who, I don't know, there's sometimes people that just get your goat sometimes, you know, and they're not really doing anything, they're just being them, and she kind of especially kind of gets on my nerves, and I think there is like that heightened sense of like whatever going into any type of interaction with her, and so I was sharing that story in the group, and then we kind of started to unpack the meaning behind the root downfall of, which is number 1, of praising yourself and criticizing others. And people just talked about how if you criticize others, even in your head, that it will come back to you, and I think that happens because what happens is not only it doesn't always come as if someone else is criticizing me. What happens most often is that I'm criticizing myself. And I kind of made this connection that like she kind of reminds me of me 20 years ago. And I think there's just something about that going on there. But anyway, I'm going to stop talking now.
Thank you. So, okay, I'll let you manage it, Sophia. Also, I heard someone unmuted and I couldn't find who was it. It was scratching in the background. So if you're not talking, can you please mute yourself? Thanks. Donna, thanks. Sophia, all yours. Can you see or not? Do you need
I'm
me?
actually having...
Okay, so I'll call on group 2, even though I don't know who that is. Who's group 2?
That's going to be me tonight. Anyone else from group 2, feel free to jump in. So we're presenting on the root downfall 5, the root downfall of stealing what belongs to the jewels. So the first thing that came to mind for us was representing the Dharma as your own, perhaps. And we kind of talked about it as like or representing teachings. So like talked about it as like what your intention is. Maybe you don't want to share the intention that like, because of who your audience is, that these are like Buddhist teachings, but there's a difference, there's a nuance there. Whereas like, if you're representing it as your own, as you came up with these ideas, that would be stealing. Also, someone mentioned that if, you know, maybe you're in the business of teaching these teaching, and if you're not actually living by the Dharma, then you're stealing as well. I think that's what we talked about. Yeah.
Okay, and what would be the consequence of that, of pretending it's your idea? What do you think that would do to your development to freedom? Like intentionally telling someone else, like I'm just using your example. I don't know if you all got the PDF that says what these vows actually refer to, but just using your idea, think about what you would be forced to perceive if you're actively claiming something as your own that wasn't yours. What would you be forced to perceive in the future if you know you're sort of lying?
Everyone taking away what I have.
Or not believing you.
People not believing you.
Yeah, so even if you were telling the truth, like you're actively breaking truth by lying, if that's the subtle intention. And so all these vows are like tiny subtle radiations that we're placing in our minds if we're not pure for, you know, I hate using that word, but pure as in really clean about our treatment of others, including our own mind. So Claudia, thanks for that. Yeah. Group 3, who was that?
Hello, it is me.
Hello, it is me.
I'm suddenly feeling nervous. Oh, usually I don't feel nervous as much, but now I know. Anyway, this is, dare I say, the best vow, and also the easiest one to break, because this vow is holding wrong views. So that would be like me saying that everyone in the whole world would think that this candle smells as good as I think it smells, or as bad as I think it smells. Yes, 5 out of 5 on Buddhist Yelp, faux show, Tella. So that would be me self-existently seeing something one fixed way, like it has only one nature to it. And that would be wrong. That would be whatever my perception of it is. So it's really easy to break because we will always be breaking it until we're enlightened. Because we will always, you know, we can practice it, you know, something that Supriya said in our, when she taught this the first time that I liked a lot, and I'll try and be quick, was that you can only ever, in any religion or spirituality or whatever set that you decide to believe in, you could either have a practice of morality or not. And so it's a practice. So you can only ever be practicing having correct view, which would be the opposite of wrong view, which would be trying to see everything as something that you created, something that you are projecting. And what a wonderful way to see, to find your way to liberation.
So interesting, because the vow is holding wrong view. We have wrong view all the time. We think pens come this way. We have that. But holding that to be true, think of the consequences, right? You're going to fight everybody that doesn't agree with you because you're right and they're wrong. And that will force you to take an action that will create suffering, pushing away the people that don't see it your way. That's how you get division. And so to me, that's that wrong view. The classic one is not believing in causality, cause and effect, meaning there's no impact to me behaving a certain way. Not believing that there's consequences to what I put in my mind. That's like one of the ultimate wrong views. And I think about it, what's the name of that biggest living organism is it Colorado? Punam? What's that big tree that all the roots are shared? It's like the biggest.
Aspen.
Huh?
Aspen.
No, not a town. It's a tree that has billions of trees.
The banyan tree.
Aspens are a tree.
Aspens are a tree.
Oh, I see. Sorry.
There's aspen.
Yeah, that's them.
Right. So to me, all of those root systems that are feeding all these separate trees, this vow is like that. It's the root of all those roots. It's the thing that could infect every goodness. Because not understanding that the world actually is projected is what keeps us locked up in mistaken experiences. So thanks, Zoe, group 3. Who's group 4? Supriya, are you back online?
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry, that was
You're
on.
the boss. Yeah.
Stephen.
Hi, I was in group 4 and we chose vow 12. The root downfall of causing a person to turn back from total enlightenment. And so I think they were very literal here, just actually telling someone that they could never achieve enlightenment, which we felt like, why would we do that? That seems really mean and totally not what would get us enlightenment. But we were also talking about some subtle ways that we could act that would cause this as well, like maybe just not acting in a way that people would perceive as like enlightened. So I don't know, maybe we're kind of being jerks and somebody's like, oh, well, you're following this path and it's not working. Or maybe in the way that we talk about our path or enlightenment is maybe intimidating for people. So they might turn away from that. And then in return, we would be keeping ourselves from enlightenment.
Cool. You hit on something very specific vow. A Hinayana practitioner tells a Mahayana practitioner what you're practicing won't get you enlightened. What I'm practicing gets you enlightened. It's very specific. If you're not doing that, you don't break the vow. So when you're tracking your mind, you should be going, yes, I didn't break that vow. I'm so excited. Yeah, I didn't do it, right? Meaning, I didn't place an imprint that would prevent me from reaching a state of enlightenment. Yeah. And so it's great that you didn't do that. If you understand what breaking the vows mean, you know you won't break this one. Yeah, because you're unlikely to go up to someone and say, what you're practicing is stupid. That kind of Buddhism is stupid because my kind of Buddhism is more stupid. That's pretty dumb Buddhism. Yeah. But the other thing you said, and for all of us, this is true, the low level radiation, the subtlety, what would be the subtle nature that would ever get me to think that way? And I think what you were saying is walk the talk. If you're practicing something, which we're calling wake-upism, but you're practicing something to change your mind, then live in accordance with that way you're changing your mind. If you made a promise, if you took a vow, then live in accordance with that promise you took. Otherwise, your own recording of your actions won't have agency. It won't deliver the goods for you. Forget whether people like you or don't like you, they believe you or don't believe you, but you're recording yourself being incongruent with the thing that you think is going to get everyone happy. And that won't get you happy. So I love that you went there with this subtlety. It's the low level radiation movements of mind that we make that create or prevent us from continuing on the awakening path. And look, it's got names. It's Buddhism, it's Mahayana, but don't get lost in appearances. It's all about what you're placing in your mind through what you think, say, and do. Don't be a jerk, be kind. Essentially, that's what you're trying to nurture. That's what the trees of, what is it, Sydney? Aspens. Like that, then you're feeding the entire system, because keeping that vow well will help you with the other one. So awesome that you guys went there. That's really cool. Thank you, Brenda.
Yeah, and something else I heard in what you were saying, Brenda, which is a nice reminder, is that having these vows half the practice is trying not to break them, right? But the other half, or maybe more, is how can I honor them, right? Like having your vows doesn't just mean going around being like, okay, I don't want to break them. There's also the flip side of what would upholding those vows create for me. So I like what you're saying, because when I work with this vow, it makes me always think about when I'm giving someone advice, I'm secretly sharing Dharma with them. You know, even if it's like a coffee with a colleague at work and they just want advice about how to get promoted, in my mind, I'm saying, okay, I'll give you the steps, but what if I could slip in there the real causes for you not to just get promoted at work, but to get enlightened for the sake of all beings, right? Because that's me not just trying not to break this vow, but actually to honor it. So I just want to chime in there. I also want to welcome our guest, Tim. I think you're in the house. We're going to give it, he's here, right? He said he was here.
There he is.
I'm here.
Hi, Tim.
Hi, Tim.
We're so excited. It's going to be all yours in just 4 minutes. So bear with us. We're just sharing. We just had a breakout room activity, and we divided up the 18 root downfalls amongst all the breakout rooms, and people are just sharing, you know, how would I actually they each are going to choose one vow and talk about how to put it into practice. We have 2 rooms left. So room 5, Javier's room.
Hi, I'm Maria. I'm representing room 5. Yeah. So the vow we chose to present was the one that confused me the most and had like the most Buddhist-y stuff in it, and it's number 14. The root downfall of holding that a person cannot eliminate desire and the rest by following the way of the learner. And I really wanted to know what a self-made Buddha was and what the lesser way was and what listeners are. And so we talked about it, and basically the kind of thing that we discussed was that there are these self-made Buddhas who are people who are perhaps kind of on this path of awakening, but they aren't indoctrinated in a specific tradition or don't have a specific teacher. They're kind of on their own journey of enlightenment. And you can't, as someone who says that they're, you know, heading towards enlightenment, say that someone else's path is wrong, just because they're not in your tradition or not following the same sort of protocol that you are. So it's similar to the last one, I think, in certain ways.
That's really trippy that you got that one, because I forgot it's got all these terms, right? So now we have to go and figure out what these terms mean. But to that and to the wrong views, and actually to all of them, careful, because it also doesn't mean let anyone do anything at all, right? Ultimately, we don't know what another person's mind is doing as they're doing some practices. At the end of the day, I have no idea, but I have valid perception. I can perceive what they're actually doing. And so if someone's saying, I'm having a spiritual path and I'm punching my neighbor in the face every morning as soon as I can, that's my spiritual path. It's also incumbent on me to say, that doesn't look like a spiritual path that would lead someone to happiness, particularly your neighbor. So I should, if I want to keep the other bodhisattva vows, I have to engage that reality in a very specific way. Right? I can't just let people go punching people in the face, even if I think it's their spiritual practice. Yeah. So
and it depends on whose face.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. No,
Exactly.
I'm kidding.
It doesn't depend on whose face. Cool. But see how that tension of having to really discern what imprint will occur in my mind. The reality of avoiding someone being punched, that's being imprinted in my mind. Saving someone from harm, that's being imprinted in my mind. If that person is really in a spiritual path, they'll understand that kindness is ultimately how you imprint your mind. So maybe they're testing me to see whether or not I'll intervene. So this is how you engage your mind when you take vows. You keep digging into what do I perceive and what will the consequences be. Sorry to take up time, but awesome vow.
Yeah, it's actually related to what Zoe was sharing, which when I said that, it's not my words, that's the Dalai Lama, who talks about how you can divide the world up like this, right? Where you have this tradition here and then another one, you can slice it that way, but really the only way to slice it is this way. And it's people who have a practice that are doing a practice and people who aren't. And how do you reduce the number of people you see in your world who aren't doing a practice or aren't doing a practice that you agree with, right? It has everything to do with the honor and integrity you bring to your own practice. That's so relevant with this vow as well. And group 6, Gabe, you have like less than a minute. Sorry.
Okay.
I think JJ's going to talk for us.
Yeah, I was nominated last minute and I get to choose the one I want to talk about. And I'm going to choose the one that I was really confused about in the beginning. It's 16, accepting what belongs to the 3 jewels when someone presents it to you. I was confused because in my mind, what belongs to the 3 jewels, which is the Buddha jewel, Dharma jewel, and Sangha jewel, is the emptiness of the Buddha mind, Dharma, and the Sangha, which to me, it's like if someone was presenting emptiness to me, I have to do everything I can to accept it and embrace it. So I didn't really understand this, but then we started talking about, I was lucky in this group to have Rachel, Gabriel, Leah, and Kelly to share their wisdom with us. And one of the things that Rachel said that I thought was really amazing is when you start to, well, we talked about like not appropriating funds to these places where you can receive this kind of teaching and this wisdom. And one of the things that Rachel said is if you look at all the objects around you as belonging to the 3 jewels, then your behavior towards them will change. You'll hold a Buddha statue and not just think, oh, this is just an object. You'll have the way you treat it, the way you interact with these objects, even if they're material and tangible, it's just going to change your behavior. And I thought that was really beautiful. And then the 18 is super important. Don't ever discard the wish of enlightenment. I think that's like obvious, but worth noting.
Oh, JJ, you're the queen. Thank you.
I love it. Hector, do you want to introduce Tim and I'll get...
Yeah, let me see, where is he? Ladies and gentlemen, I am so happy. Tim, thank you for coming to us all the way from Arizona, Diamond Mountain University Retreat Center. Tim is the executive director, the guy that holds all of ACI, the organization, the Asian Classics Institute, of which the courses we're taking is one small slice. Tim is the director of Asian Classics Institute. And what Asian Classics Institute is, beyond these courses, is these open teachings, secret teachings, retreats, and a whole bunch of other activity that he manages with a team of volunteers and people. So he's going to share with us this retreat that's coming up to stop COVID for good. Tim, all yours. Thanks so much for coming to 3 Jewels.
Thank you all for inviting me. I'm so excited to see what you all are doing. I hear lots of little chirps about what's going on in New York, and then all of a sudden I'm like, what the heck is this like ACI 16, 17, 18 course with 70 people online? I think you guys are one of the largest groups studying. It's really impressive to see how strangely COVID has made ACI more accessible and relevant, which is really cool, I think. Not that I would wish that it would have happened that way, because it doesn't have to ripen that way, but it kind of did. And just listening to your class tonight, it's quite auspicious, the timing of your class and my being invited here, specifically since you're studying the vows again, right? And what I'm doing here at Diamond Mountain, I live in Sedona, and I'm down here setting up the event that's going to be starting next Friday, which is a 10-day retreat, at-home retreat intensive about the Medicine Buddha. And this program came about, one of our largest sponsors has been bugging Geshe Michael to teach the Medicine Buddha. And the Medicine Buddha hasn't typically been part of the ACI lineage. And in fact, Geshe Michael, he even admits that he wasn't interested and he thought it was a bunch of hocus pocus. Like he was like, whatever, here's some mantras, here's some making some, very ritualistic kind of offerings. And then all of a sudden he was going through the ACIP database, which I'm not sure if many of you know about. So ACIP, the Asian Classics Input Project, soon to be renamed the Asian Legacy Library, is really the first nonprofit that Geshe Michael started in the 1990s, which is basically the inputting of all the Tibetan and Sanskrit texts into a digital database. And that project's been going on for 35 some years. And people in India, refugees primarily from Tibet, have been just typing in the ancient texts into a database. And that database is what made the ACI courses possible originally when Geshe Michael started teaching them, because he was able to access them, translate them, find the connections between them, and create the coursework that you guys are now, completing the first 18 courses, right? So then he went in and said, well, let's go into this Medicine Buddha thing. And he started doing all this research and he found something pretty cool. And he found some explanations of why Medicine Buddha retreat, why Medicine Buddha mantras work. And it goes into this deep explanation of how mantras work, how they're related to, you're going to get to this in ACI 18. Well, no, wait. Yeah, ACI 18. You're going to be talking about Chichedrak, the ideas of how seeds open up, all these things together, and how mantras really work. How does repeating the words of a medicine Buddha stop the virus? And I'm not going to tell you how, because you have to come to the course to learn. And that's why I'm here. But it's really, really cool. Like this, we've been studying the sutras for about 3 or 4 months now. There's been a small group of us, and there's been a group of people translating as well. And we've been spending, I've been trying to see how this fits into the larger curriculum. And what's really beautiful about this course is it's such a heart-centric compassion course. All we're doing is we're identifying all the different ways that people suffer, all the different ways that people have bad things that happen in their life. And then we simply make prayers and offerings to them. Like that's what the Medicine Buddha is. So we don't have to think about, it's much more on the Bodhisattva compassion side than the emptiness side. But then through the whole course, Geshe Michael just peppers us with all this really cool, deep information about how it all fits together, how seeds work. And then the goal of this is that if we have a worldwide audience, a worldwide participants doing a retreat for 10 days together, making these prayers all at the same time, that we could change these seeds. We can change the seeds to see a virus in the world, to see a pandemic, to see people dying, sick, economies crashing. I don't want to go too far in it because I'll probably get really upset. But that's what this course is about, bringing all of us together around the world. So it starts next Friday, and it's going to be, we have a mix of pre-recorded classes, and then we have, every day we have live classes in the morning from Diamond Mountain. That's why I'm here, because I'm setting all of that stuff up. And we have a team of people translating this course into 9 languages. And we have approximately 1,000 people in the paid track. And then we have another 1,000 people just watching the course online for free. Now, why is this auspicious that we're talking about Bodhisattva vows right now? This is a Tantric Empowerment, okay? This is a course from the lower Tantras. So for those of you that don't know, there's 4 classes of Tantra, and this comes from the lower classes. And the first thing we do is we study Bodhisattva vows. To be able to take this course, we give so we give a kind of wishing vow ceremony. You're not taking the vows. Don't worry if you haven't taken them yet, it's okay. But we go through Nagarjuna's Bodhisattva ceremony for the wish to become a Bodhisattva. And then from there, we go into the actual empowerment to be able to do the Medicine Buddha sadhana in the practice. So that's the general overview. Now, another big question you may have before people start asking me questions is, what if you can't do it during those 10 days? That's okay. You can do it in your own time. You know, we're going to be doing the live event from here at Diamond Mountain. We're doing all these different ceremonies. We're doing the empowerment. We're doing the Bodhisattva vow. We're doing an animal liberation ceremony, which I don't know if you can, sort of sitting over there on the altar, it's kind of hard to see. It'll look a lot more fancy online. We're doing a fire puja. We're doing a consecration of the land. Why? Because we're building 8 stupas right behind me up the mountain that's going to turn into a pilgrimage site here at Diamond Mountain. And we're raising money for that. Lots of cool things going on. So I don't want to talk too much, but I want to encourage you that if you are interested or you know anybody who may be attracted to this practice, it's weird. Like, people have weird seeds for Medicine Buddha. They hear it and they go, I want to be part of that. You know, and that's it's kind of how I was. I'm like, I don't know what this is about, but let's do it. Any questions about, I just gave you just an overload of information. Hopefully you might find that interesting or interesting to you, and that you might be excited to join. But what kind of questions might you have about it?
Yeah, thanks, Tim. And I can moderate questions if people want to chat them in. So I'm sure some people have similar questions, so I can moderate that. Okay. And Tim, it's really exciting to hear what you're sharing, because we actually just covered Chi Jedrak on Tuesday. And earlier tonight, we talked about taking Bodhisattva vows as a wish. So I hope all of this, it's cool how quickly these seeds are ripening. I'll just start with a kind of general question, and Rachel asked a version of it as well, but a lot of students here, this is probably the first time they're having an opportunity to retreat. Like, we're talking beginners here. What is a retreat? Can they still join this? And in addition to Bodhisattva vows, are refuge vows being given?
Good question. Okay. So from the side of retreat, you know, if you've never done a retreat, we're guiding you through step by step in this. So we're going to be giving you a daily schedule that you can follow. So we'll have 2 hours of classes in the morning live. We'll have several pre-recorded classes throughout the day, and then also give you time to actually do the practices throughout the day. So you'll be getting the daily practice, the sadhana. You'll be getting some of the readings that you can then take in and contemplate and do mantra practice as well. And we'll go through what that means and how you can go into it. In terms of like a really strict retreat, there's different ways you can do it. And you can do it as I'm going to go off and just be by myself. You can, you know, obviously with COVID, we don't want to be traveling anywhere. Or you can do it more relaxed. Like, okay, I have some time during the day. I can do part of it and then do some of it later. The idea is to get exposed to the different ways that you can do your own daily practice. And then the question of refuge, I'm trying to avoid it because I don't remember. But I don't think we're giving refuge vows. And if we are, I'll change that answer. Okay.
Okay, cool. And just to confirm what I heard, Tim, so it can be, everything that's offered in this retreat will be recorded and can be experienced retroactively. Is that true for those who have a full-time job maybe and can't take a week off, you know, but they can register, they'll have access to everything, and then they can do it on their own time and still get kind of certification that they completed this retreat?
Exactly. And then what's happening after the 10 days is, starting in January, we're going to be continuing onwards, and this is part of the paid program. We'll be having weekly Q&As with senior ACI teachers. as well as deeper teachings into the sadhana and the medicine Buddha practice. So that'll be going on for another 6 weeks. Additionally, we're going to be offering from ACI Home Office ACI7, Course 7, January and February. So if you have not taken Course 7 and you would like to take that, we will be offering that for over the January and February. And then at the end of February, beginning of March, there's going to be a special Bodhisattva vow extravaganza online with Geshe Michael Roach giving the full action vows. If you finish the course. You have to take the course and you have to have the homeworks and everything turned in to be able to do that. So we're giving an enticement. Take the wishing vows, and then if you haven't taken the course yet, you can take the course with us. We'll have the vow ceremony at the end of February, beginning of March. If you have already taken vows, you most certainly can join us for that Bodhisattva vow renewal ceremony.
Great, thank you, Tim. I'm gonna read this question out because I think it's beautiful. It came directly to me. Can you clarify, Tim? So is this medicine Buddha a specific Buddha that's called the medicine Buddha? Or is it just the dark blue Buddha and the image? Or is it just our idea of a Buddha who can give us the medicine we need to cure all ailments?
Okay, good question. In the sutra, basically in the sutra, Shakyamuni Buddha, our Buddha, is chilling out and all these cool people show up, right? All these bodhisattvas, all these beings, all these like Lord of the Ring characters, Nagas and things like that. They all show up for this big event, right? And the Buddha says, you know, and Manjushri shows up and Manjushri says, hey, can you teach us something cool about how to, you know, teach us something? And I don't remember the exact question, but the idea is like Manjushri asked this question. And basically they want to know how, you know, what kind of prayers, what kind of things can we do to speed up getting to enlightenment? What kind of prayers can we make? And Buddha's like, well, there's this guy, you know, and if you go like to the east over all the number of grains of sands in like 10 Ganges rivers, and you travel to all those planets and you show up on this Buddha paradise, you'll meet this Buddha. And maybe his name is Ratnachandra, right? And it describes this whole paradise. And then you learn about the prayers that Buddha made when he or she was a bodhisattva to become a Buddha, okay? It's really, really cool. So the whole sutra is about seven different Buddhas, including Medicine Buddha, who have made, what is it, 7 or 8? There's 8. There's 7 Buddhas and 1 Medicine Buddha. The whole point is there's all these different enlightened beings, and then we're trying to learn about what did they do to become a Buddha? What kind of prayers did they make? Who were they serving? What was their particular orientation? Are you interested in helping homeless people? Are you interested in helping sick people? Are you interested in helping people who suffer from racial, gender, sexual orientation prejudice, for example, right? What's your flavor? What's your thing that gets you motivated to help other people? And then you learn about what those Buddhas, the prayers that they made. And then the point is at the very end, you recognize that the Buddha's like talking to you. What do you, the bodhisattvas in the audience, who are you? What prayers do you want to make? What prayers are you going to make? So when bodhisattvas in the future are like, oh, look, Supriya, the enlightened, majestic one, what prayers did she make while she was a bodhisattva? And they'll go, oh, well, Supriya was like, and then they teach those prayers. And so the idea is that you make those prayers yourself. What are you going to be focusing on? So you can become enlightened by focusing on the prayers that other Buddhas made. Did I answer all those questions? I think so.
So stunning.
Tim, oh, I'm sorry. Can I ask a question?
The chat, Rachel, the chat.
So just to reiterate, I think I wasn't clear enough to begin. So we have a bunch of people, I think, in this class who might be interested in attending the retreat, but they don't have refuge vows yet.
Okay.
I think that there's probably at least a few people who might be considering that. Is that something that they can then do? I'm not sure how Geshe-la is doing this. Could they then go take the Bodhisattva vows as a wish without having refuge and then kind of go through the whole course, or how would that function? And if you don't know, that's okay. We can always get back to people.
I can get back to you, but I have an answer for that. I think this idea of going for refuge is it's an important concept. And I think it also can be overwhelming and a little daunting for some people, because what does it mean to go for refuge? What does it mean to like become an official Buddhist? Like, what does that mean, right? What is refuge, right? Refuge, are we going to refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha? And I heard someone mention something like that when they were talking about one of the Bodhisattva vows. It's not the physical Buddha that you're going to refuge to, because the Buddha can't protect you. The Dharma, the Dharma, these words on this page can't protect me, right? The Sangha, right? The Sangha of those who have seen emptiness directly, they can't protect you in the way that you think they can protect you, right? It's really a deep understanding of where stuff comes from. Where is your world coming from? I just saw someone's hand go like this. Good job. I don't know if it was on purpose or you're swatting a fly, but good job. When you understand where things are coming from and you've had some kind of experience where you go, a confirmatory experience, you go, okay, I can get behind this idea, right? So on a technicality, we normally teach that people need to take refuge first, and then they can take bodhisattva vows. Well, I'm not a technicality. So I actually didn't take refuge vows for many, many, many years after I took bodhisattva vows. Why? Because it freaked me out. It just didn't make sense to me. I didn't understand what I was doing. And this lineage teaches us, if you don't understand it, put it on the shelf and just cook it. Try to okay, I don't get this, but okay, I'll just think about this, right? And my we grew up Christian. I felt like I was going against my heritage and my family. And oh God, my mom would probably break down crying if she knew I became a Buddhist or something like that. And, so after a time, once I felt more comfortable with it, and I actually started going to church with my mom, and I was like, oh, this is cool. It's a lot of cool teachings here, right? And I wasn't disavowing my lineage. I wasn't disavowing where I came from. Or in fact, one of you said earlier on about, we don't disparage other traditions at all. It's not something we do. We don't judge other people's paths. They all go to the same place anyway, right? They're just different methods. They're different doors. One room is orange, one room is pink. They're still a room, right? Practitioners versus non-practitioners, like you said, Supriya. So for me, it took me a long time to get to that place. And once I got there, and it just it was almost like this realization where it went, my heart opened and I was like, oh, okay, got it. Now I'm going to take the vows. The same thing happened with bodhisattva vows. I freaked out the first day I went to take them. And I don't know if you guys know, if any of you know Jigme, she was like, it's okay, little grasshopper, right? She's like, it's okay. You can just take the wishing vows, right? And that's what I did. I took the wishing vows, and then I just kept my book for probably 2 years. And then by the time I took the vows, I was already doing it. It was just this sort of formality. Sometimes marriage is just like that, right? Anyway, let's not go there. Did that answer your question, Rachel?
I think so.
Yeah. So what I'll do is I will ask specifically for giving refuge vows, which I don't think we're giving. And then I gave the answer of traditionally that's the order you take it in, refuge, bodhisattva vows. But I don't know. You read the stories in the books of the great practitioners who show up and then immediately, boom, they get like in Tantric Empowerment. And then they go, and then they get Sutra afterwards.
So basically you're saying, Tim, that it doesn't matter if you got vows or not, you can come to the retreat. Yeah.
Correct. You don't need vows to come to this. Absolutely.
So if people are interested and they want to, and they're drawn, they can take the class, they can take the course, they can engage in the retreat with this beautiful motivation and connect with Geshe Michael, please. It's amazing.
True. Yeah, no, you don't need anything special to come to this event.
If I could just say one more thing really quickly, is that, Tim, you mentioned Asian Classics Institute. We talk about ACI a lot in the ACI classes at 3 Jewels, and you also mentioned ACIP, which is now called Asian Legacy Library. I just want the folks in the class to know, I want to send this message very clearly, that these are 2 nonprofits that it would be very, very good to support. And so in our recap email of this class, we can include links. Even if you're inspired by what Tim is saying, and you want to contribute to the retreat, maybe you can't attend it, or you want to contribute to what Asian Legacy Library is doing or Asian Classics Institute is doing, which again, the ACI classes at 3 Jewels are a keyhole into an amazing world of teachings. So if you guys want to support that, we'll provide the links for you to donate.
Thank you all. It's going to be a loaded recap email this week, so definitely check it out. All of that information will be there. And thank you, Tim, for joining us. I was hoping you could do the honors and close us out. Thanks everyone for staying a bit later than usual.
Sashi Buki Jukshin Meto Tram Rirabling Shin Inde Gempadi Sange Churang Sange Shindu Mekte Uwargi Drokun Namdak Shinla Chupar Shok Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami Gewadi Gewokun Sunam Yeshe Sok Sok Shing Sunam Yeshe Le Junwe Dampar Kunyi Topar Shok.
Really grateful. Thank you, Supriya, for leading the class. Thank you, Tim, for the visit and the talk. Thanks every one of you who helped in the breakout rooms clarify and for bringing your holy minds to unravel this weird world we experience together. May we turn it to...
Sorry. I was going to say, thanks for everyone sharing your magic moments. I just feel bad this chat got lost, but Carly, I'd love for you to share your magic moment at the start of next class, because there's apparently something you want to share. And it was just a loaded schedule tonight. But see you all next Tuesday for the second half of the Bodhisattva Vows class. Sorry to interrupt.
It's okay, thank you.
Thank you for inviting me. I really, really appreciate it. And it's so wonderful to see all of you studying. Please keep going and take it out into your lives. That's where the real practice is. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Supriya, are we going to have these classes during the retreat?
Yes, we intend to.
Okay.
I don't think they'll conflict with the teachings from the retreat. Those I think are in the mornings, and anyways, they're recorded. So we will be, this course ends, I think, right before Christmas time. So from now until then, it's every Tuesday and Thursday.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tim.
Can we hear the baby?
Yeah, please unmute, Hannibal.
Can we hear the baby?
Mamata.
Say hi.
Say hi.
She was just blabbing, and then now she decides to keep quiet.
She just got the
Hi,
attention.
Chloe.
Chloe.
Right there. Chloe.
OMG. And Supriya is there too.
Oh my gosh, she's so excited.
Supriya, that's right. It's not gonna happen.
Love you guys.
Love you.
Thank you for teaching. Thank you.
Thanks, animal.
Hannibal, je t'aime.
Yes, Mama. Okay, bye, everyone.
Can you say Hector?
God,
Say hi, Hector.
Can you say Hector? She's like, no, I'll go silent.
Hector, Mamata. She still remembers the baby.
Malacaria. Yeah, Malacaria.
Yes. You're gonna have to close it because she's gonna kill me if I do anything.
God.
Oh.
Yes.
We're all mamada, I guess.
You know, right? Seriously. All right, love you guys.
What's your day?
Oh my God. Love you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Carly, you want to hang out? You want to share a little bit preemptive strike? I want to hear it.
Totally. I wasn't sure. Hector, you said to talk tonight. Supreme.